I got a really quick, easy recipe for you today. It's chicken breast with mushroom and onion Dijon sauce. And you put your own sides with this. It's not going to include the pastas or anything else, but at the end I'll show you what I plan on doing with it. So first, you need to go ahead and grab you a skillet. Put you some oil in here. You're going to side slice or butterfly your chicken breasts. And you're going to dredge them in some seasoned flour. Salt and pepper is fine. So that's what I'm doing now. Cook the chicken. I've already set it aside, so you need to set it aside into a platter plate. Just move it on out of the skillet. You could use fresh mushrooms. Hand in hand, building castles out of sand, reaching for the grand. This willow's a line. And I'm gonna go ahead and add my onion. This is red or purple onion, depending on what you call it. Dreamy, breezy, we go. Easy, easy on our tiptoes. Undercover agents of the other. Beyond gravel, beyond scale the world inhales as we go. I'm going to add a couple of teaspoons of rosemary, and then we're going to cook that for a little while. Dreamy, breezy, we go. Easy. Okay, and the next thing that we're going to add is our mustards. That in there, stir it up. Dreamy, breezy, we go. And we gotta add white wine. I have got white cooking wine, and that's what I'm gonna use. 1 cup of white wine. Agents of the other, beyond gravel, beyond all. Now we're gonna add some parsley. Just a couple teaspoons of parsley, because I'm using dried. And we're going to add our chicken broth, and we're going to add cream and butter. In town, I already know. Couple days ago. 4 tablespoons of butter, and then you're going to need a 1/2 cup of heavy cream. Still I'm here alone, and I'm calling your phone. I wish I could wipe my own memory out. I wish I could dream about somebody else. I wish I could talk when the silence so loud. I wish, oh I wish I could wipe my own memory out. I wish I could do something that will make sense. I wish I would know what you're thinking about. I wish I could wipe my own memory out. All right, you just continue to simmer until the chicken is cooked through, and I'll check back in with you in a few minutes. Okay, y'all, so it's done now, and I'm going to plate it up, and I'm going to put it over some rice. So all it's going to do is slowly cook down, and that's what you want it to do, but not too much, because you still want a little bit of sauce for the chicken as you plate it and for the rice as well. So I'll show you exactly what that looks like. Okay, y'all, so this is the finished product. I just let it cook a little bit longer, simmer, and it'll reduce down a little bit.
You can use any starch you want for the sauce, and you'll have enough sauce for the meat itself. And I paired it with some corn, and I'm ready to serve. Today we're going to do meatloaf. So I'm gonna show you how I do my meatloaf. Let me get my ketchup real quick because I forgot that. So you can do this a bunch of different ways. My family, I went low carb a while ago, and I was trying to find ways of doing my best, not strict, you know, low carb or anything, but doing my best to reduce the carb count in our foods and stuff, the regular things that we already eat, or find the substitutions for the things that we already eat. That way it would not be such a shock to my family or anything like that, or I would be able to eat with them, wouldn't have to make a separate meal for me. Since then though, they've now got so used to, for example, the meatloaf being, instead of using breadcrumbs, I use oatmeal. They've gotten so used to that they don't really want it any other way, or they find it odd when I change. So I'm going to show you how I do it with dried oats, but you can use breadcrumbs in the place of that. So don't think that this is just like, this is one of those low carb recipes. No. We can do it low carb, but you don't have to. You can substitute for breadcrumbs. So just remember that. And so I'm just going to go ahead and get started and show you everything, and then I'll dig in with my hands here in a second. So this is about 2.5 pounds to 3 pounds of ground beef. It's full fat, but you don't have to use full fat. Well, no, I believe, no, it's not full fat. It's ground chuck, so it's not completely full fat, but close, but not completely. It's not lean. You do need a little bit of that fat to give it flavor. You could use lean if you're, you know, okay with that, but I like a little bit of flavor in there. The first thing I like to do is go ahead and put my spices in first, mix them in first, then put my egg, you know, and all my wet stuff, then put the oats. So I mix it each time as I go, because I don't want the wet to combine with the dry, like the spices, and have big clumps of spices. I want it spread throughout. So, you know, yeah, meatloaf is easy to make, but it does have a little bit of an art to it, I guess you could say, where it needs to try to go a certain way, or it's just going to taste terrible. Okay, so we're going to go ahead with our spices. I'm going to be using onion powder in place of onion. You can do chopped onion. My family doesn't like the chunks of onion. They don't like that. Even if I saute it, they still don't like it. They got a texture thing. They get that from their dad. Anyway, so what I typically do is things like that where they're very particular, I will put onion powder in the place of, and it is just as good. Just be careful with your onion powder, because some onion powders, the way they're made up, they actually have excess sodium in them, and I'm not talking about onion salt. Let me say that. You know, a lot of people say, well, that's onion salt. No, it's onion powder as well, because I've made a lot of mistakes with other things by putting onion powder in and salt in there, and then they taste salty, and I'm like, what? It shouldn't. And the only thing I think of is my onion powder makes it just a little bit salty. So I will add a little bit of salt, but it won't be much, because some of it comes from my onion powder. So I'm going to eyeball these, and I will try to put a recipe down below that I kind of loosely base this on, and you can follow that recipe instead. I also want to say that you can use other meats. You do not have to use ground beef. You can use ground turkey, you can use venison, you can use any of that stuff. And most people that's been cooking for a while know that they can substitute whatever. It's still not going to matter. Okay, so the only thing that'll be different is maybe the taste may be a little bit different. Okay, so let's start with the onion powder. I would say at least 2 teaspoons, maybe 3, because I do want them to really be able to taste the onion powder. I put paprika in as well, and parsley, and I'm just going to do a little bit of salt, like I said. I mean, literally, maybe a half a teaspoon, and some pepper. And typically, I would have put my kosher salt in here, because y'all know I love my kosher salt. But the granules are really, really large, and I'm afraid that it may mess with the salt ratio, plus it may also not dissolve fully. It probably would, but I just don't want to take the chance. So, you don't have to mix this well, but kind of stir, and you can do it with your hands too, it doesn't matter. Stir the spices around in there a little bit, so they're not all clumped together. That way when we add the wet, it'll be okay. Alright, now, I not only put ketchup on the outside of, or on the top of my meatloaf, I also do it on the inside. So, let me go ahead and add the ketchup. I don't even know how much that is, so hopefully that recipe will help you. It's probably about a half a cup of ketchup. Okay, so, and in between, it's just good to give it a good stir. And yes, I'm going to be digging in with my hands in a minute, because it's just not going to do it fully. Okay. Get ready, because we're going to switch pans here in a minute. And I do always, like for our family, we got 5 family members, but that I'm cooking for. But I have 3 boys, 3 growing boys, and you know, this sometimes will go into 2 loaf pans. And no, you don't have to have a loaf pan to have a meatloaf. I used to cook it all the time on a cookie sheet. So you do whatever it is, and you can still have meatloaf. And you could put it in patties for, you know, what it's worth. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 eggs. So we already added some of the oatmeal, and I already know that it's not going to be enough. And I know you're sitting there thinking, it's going to look weird, it's going to taste weird, but really it absorbs in there. You don't even know it's there. Unless there's a little bit on the outside that didn't cook all the way or didn't get mixed. Okay, y'all, so it's pretty easy to throw together. Pretty simple. Throw some mashed potatoes with it and some green peas, and you've got a meal. Make sure you like and subscribe. See you next time.